General G.D. Bakshi is a prominent Indian defence analyst. His hard-hitting commentaries on Pakistan and the United States and ultra-nationalist ideas have earned him huge admiration and following on social media.
Who did it? You had brought the world to the brink of an economic disaster. Donald Trump was acting like he was Adolf Hitler.
General Bakshi, often referred to as soldier scholar, has finished his doctoral work on strategic studies from University of Madras and has written more than 45 books on military strategy and ancient Indian civilization, including The Rise of Indian Military Power and Limited Wars in South Asia. He served Indian military with distinction, serving in combat operations in many conflict zones from Bengal to Punjab to Kargil, and was awarded Sena Medal and Vishisht Seva Medal for distinguished service. General Bakshi has taught at the Indian Military Academy in Dehradun, Defence Service Staff College in Wellington, and the National Defence College in Delhi. General Bakshi joins Moeed Pirzada, editor Global Village Space, to explain why India, that was believed to be friendly to both Israel and the United States, has seen public opinion sharply critical of the war on Iran, and how this ongoing war has demolished the myth of American power. But as one can imagine, discussion often moves to India and Pakistan.
But how can India fit into the picture? India is far too big.
India is a third world country. That the Iran-United States-Israel war, a multipolar world order now fully in place. There was a clear threat that we are going to take the world back to the era of colonialism. We found Donald Trump going on a kind of a virtual war dance, a Tarzan Krieg Bundolo style drumming up of the chest. Greenland has rare earths, I need it, I'll grab it. Venezuela has the heavy crude oil, I need that, I'll grab it. Iran has oil, I'll grab it.
The change of the government in Bangladesh is also orchestrated by CIA.
The CIA, ISI were both involved in that colored revolution, which overthrew the government of Hasina Wajid. But I'm afraid the Pakistani army as an institution is sold out to the Americans.
India was also developing a strategic relationship, Why do you think that Pakistan is necessarily renting out the space and India is only having a strategic relationship?
Have we provided any air bases, naval bases to the United States of America? But I'll answer your question. I'll answer your question. Moeed, this man has created a disaster.
Do you think this war is over now?
People of the world must understand is Iran is not Venezuela. The IRGC is underground. They have whole cities where they are producing drones and rockets and missiles. Sir,
you blame Pakistan for Indian Mujahideen. I have never seen that.
Look, Indian Mujahideen was raised specifically for deniability.
But what about Balochistan? The Pakistani military believes this thing that Indian intelligence helping the BLA in sponsoring them. I mean, look at the train attack in Jafar Express.
Show us the evidence that we are doing it.
What is the strategic dimension of India's relationship with Israel?
Every war that we'd had, either with Pakistan or with China, the Israelis have been supporting.
This is Moeed Pirzada in Washington, United States. Today, I have the privilege of inviting General G.D. Bakshi from India to join me in this discussion. General Bakshi has served with Indian Armed Forces with distinction for almost 3 decades, 30 years. He has been awarded more than once. He has served and seen combat in more than one theater of conflict. He has also done his doctorate from University of Madras in strategic studies and has written extensively on the subject, an author of more than 40 books and hundreds of articles and monograms. He has been teaching at the Indian Military Academy at Dehradun. He has taught at the Defence Services Staff College in Wellington, and he's also taught at the National Defence College, NDC, in Delhi. General Bakshi, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you indeed for having me. A pleasure.
General Bakshi, I come straight to the point. I have seen you over the years on Indian media, on Republic Television, and often the discussion was heated debate on India and Pakistan, the military conflict, what's happening between India and Pakistan. But in the last 2 months plus days, I have seen a huge difference. You, other panelists on the Republic Television, so many other analysts were full of rage, not on Pakistan, but on United States and Israel attack on Iran. Can you explain to me why there was so much of rage on all across India in the newspapers and everything on this war?
Moeed, what I'd like to commence is by saying that the Iran-United States-Israel war that is ongoing is a seminal conflict of the 21st century for the simple reason that it will decide whether Donald Trump, by his bullying, hectoring, pushing, can push the world back to unipolarity, or we are going to see a multipolar world order now fully in place. And I think it is the latter denouement that we have seen. Apropos your specific of the rage in India against the American attack on Israel, on Iran. The simple fact of the matter is that Donald Trump had started more or less a war dance. After he attacked Venezuela, Donald Trump had attacked Venezuela, and in a day it was all over. And Maduro and his wife sadly were taken prisoners and carried off to the United States, helicoptered to the United States. And thereafter, we found Donald Trump going on a kind of a virtual war dance, a Tarzan Krieg Bundolo style drumming up of the chest. I have captured Venezuela in in less than 6 hours. And now I'm going to go in for Iran. 48 hours, Iran would have been crushed. Then I'm heading for Cuba. Thereafter, I'm heading for Greenland because Greenland has the rare earth. I want them. I need them. I will take them. And then I'll head for Canada, make it the 51st state of the United States. Where would you head for next, Mr. Trump? Would you be heading then for India? Look, the third world.
But how can India fit into the picture? India is far too big.
India is a third world country. What I'm trying to say, Moeed, is that the threat was to the entire third world. The threat was to the global south. There was a clear threat that we are going to take the world back to the era of colonialism. India has suffered 250 years of colonialism, man. We are not going to take any more orders and dictation from any other country, white supremacist or what have you. India is a free country. India is a nuclear power. India is the third largest economy in the world. And what we did not like was the way Donald Trump was trying to push not just India, but every single third world country. Humiliate. What are you going to start next? Slave trade from Africa? A white supremacist is fine. But what are you going to do next? This colonial mindset. Greenland has rare earths. I need it. I'll grab it. Venezuela has the heavy crude oil. I need that. I'll grab it. Iran has oil. I'll grab it. Where does it all end then? Are we heading back for an era of colonialism?
Now I
India
understand.
Is the president of BRICS.
Yes, now I understand.
I just finished.
Yeah.
I just finished this line of argument. India is the president of BRICS. Iran is a member of the BRICS. What next? What next? Is it going to be Pakistan? Is he going to go in and just take Pakistan because Field Marshal Moeed, so-called, has told Donald Trump that he has rare earth, he has copper, he has tungsten in Baluchistan. So what's going to happen next? Is he going to go for Pakistan next? It is this. The generalized threat to the global south. It is what has got the goat of every thinking Indian thus far and no further. They imposed 50% bloody tariffs on us, man. We have seen the CIA. Carry out regime changes, colored revolutions in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, in Nepal, and where does it all end? They want to create a cookie land in our northeast. Where does it all end? A Christian cookie land.
Very interesting. Very interesting. It was not part of the discussion, but you just mentioned that you suspect that the change of the government in Bangladesh is also orchestrated by CIA. The Hasina's government to fall, you see CIA behind it.
100%. And with due apologies, also the ISI. The CIA, ISI were both involved in that colored revolution, which overthrew the government of Hasina Wajid. We are not blind.
But General Bakshi, has there been any paper or any kind of investigative journalism on this issue, or
In India, there is a hell of a lot. There is no dearth of material on this particular thing. We have investigated this. We know some of the personages involved, and we aren't blind. I'll just
very
say
very
that.
interesting. No, I heard this. I heard this from some Bangladeshi politicians as well, and I had
Right.
my suspicions on the issue. But how do you think that the CIA or the ISI, whatever, were able to mobilize these hundreds and thousands of students that actually were? I mean, and 400 plus people died. How the CIA was able to manage all this?
Moeed, there is a playbook that the CIA has. This is not the first colored revolution. Colored revolution, the Arab Spring, recall the Arab Spring, recall Algeria, recall Egypt, recall a whole lot of these because of the social media, because of mass texting. You can generate colored revolution. You can identify the youth leaders and you can turn them around. It is a very standard CIA playbook, and you are very, very well educated. You are quite alive to what's happening, what's going on around the world. The CIA has the playbook. Look at the colored revolution in Eastern Europe. Look at the colored revolution in Eastern Europe. You look at what was done in Iran. 40 to 50,000 Starlink terminals were pushed into Iran because Iran had shut off the internet through which these revolutions are orchestrated. The colored revolutions are orchestrated. And it is the Russians and the Chinese who helped them to jam the Starlinks, and a lot of them were caught in the entire plot to destabilize, to overthrow the Iranian government. Failed.
So, John Bakshi, coming back to this, the Iran thing,
Yes.
the thing
Yes.
which I found very interesting was, and you have already answered it by invoking the term global south, because India and Pakistan seldom have a similar view of a situation. If Pakistanis like one thing, the Indians like the other thing. They're always, at crossroads to each other. But in the past 2 months, 2+ months, and 70 days, Pakistanis were full of rage. But one can understand that Pakistan saw Iran as a Muslim country, as the neighbor country with shared culture, cuisine, Shia phenomena and connect. And also Pakistan was always accused of having a strong, feeling of being anti-American. But India was different. India was not anti-American. India didn't share neighborhood with Iran. India had good relationship with Israel. So, now when you invoke the term global south, it makes so much more sense that in India, it has been seen an attack on the global south. And if Iran today, what next? This is what, if I correctly have summed up your position.
Absolutely. You summed it up very succinctly. What I would try to just make one correction to what you have said. The street in Pakistan is anti-American. But I'm afraid the Pakistani army as an institution is sold out to the Americans. It has always, go back to Ayub Khan's time. Cento, Seato, Gary Paz flew from where? From Peshawar with his U-2, was shot down over the Soviet Union, then Soviet Union, and Afghanistan, you name it. It is the Pakistani military which has been running counter to the street opinion, And the only politician in recent times we found who could hold a candle to the Pakistani army, stranglehold over the nation state of Pakistan, was Imran Khan. And he is rotting in jail because the Americans told him, we'll teach you a lesson. And they always teach Pakistani politicians a lesson through the Pakistani army. Who hanged Bhutto? The Pakistani army, Ziaul Haq, right? Who shot Benazir Bhutto? The Pakistan army, Pervez Musharraf, right? That has been the.
In case of Benazir Bhutto, it's not very clear. Of course, you can argue that Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was hanged by General Zia, but Benazir Bhutto's case is very mysterious in the sense that she had a compact with General Musharraf. She was supposed to be the prime minister. Musharraf was supposed to be the president. The situation becomes very complex. But when you say that the Pakistani military is sold out, I mean, you rightly said about Imran Khan, but can we also say this thing that the Pakistani military has a strategic relationship with the United States and the West from the very beginning? Can we also put it this way?
Let me put it this way. The Pakistani military has been renting out Pakistani territory to extra-regional powers, to the United States, to China, to manage its competition, military security competition with India. The standard strategy has been that. Exactly what Ukraine has done for the United States. Zelensky has rented out his territory for a proxy war against Russia. The Americans are prepared to fight Russia to the last Ukrainian. About 2 million Ukrainians have been killed, 8 million Ukrainians have fled their country, but that man is carrying out a war dance. 4 years, he's kept Russia down, kept Russia engaged in a conflict. Unfortunately, that was the role the military in Pakistan was playing. They were trying to rent out their strategic space. You own a very strategic bit of space on the borders of Afghanistan, on the rimlands of Central Asia, and if anybody wants to contain India, if the Americans are worried about a rising India, a nuclear power, India, the third largest economy in the world, almost there. We were the fourth largest. India, a space power. You want to contain India. What do? You utilize Pakistan. And Pakistan military is very happy being used. Very happy being used.
This is very interesting. This is a very interesting digression. But within Pakistan, if you look at the last 20 plus years, within Pakistan, it is often felt that India has developed a multi-dimensional, multi-strategic relationship with the United States and the West. I mean, for instance, every year, India was having 2+2 dialogue with India's defense minister and foreign minister were having with the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense. A 2+2 dialogue that was taking place in Washington and also in New Delhi. So India was also developing a strategic relationship, especially after the NDA government came in BJP in the past 20 years, the Hyde Act and everything. So why do you think that Pakistan is necessarily renting out the space and India is only having a strategic relationship? What's the distinction? What's the difference?
The difference is just this, that we did try to repair our relationships with the United States because 1990, the Soviet Union was destroyed, splintered into 15 states. And the unfortunate reality, we are realists. The unfortunate reality was that we entered a unipolar power situation. America emerged as the sole superpower, and we had no option but to, create a modus vivendi with the Americans. Then we found that the Americans suddenly realized that China was emerging as a hegemon in Asia, that China was the next adversarial superpower, and the Americans wanted to contain China. For that, they needed India. Very simple. So there was a congruence of interest, a new congruence of interest, which was not there earlier, right? And therefore, for 30 years, Indian diplomats, American diplomats, made strenuous efforts to create a new balance. India became a member of the Quad, United States, Japan, India, Australia. This was the Quad that they tried to create to counterbalance. It is a in the realist theory, power balance.
But General Bakshi, you say they tried to create. India is a member of the Quad. The four countries, Australia, Japan, India, and United States, are there in the Quad to contain China. So whereas you say that the Pakistani military has rented out itself, India has also entered into strategic relationships. For instance, India entered into...
Have we given any bases? Have we provided any air bases, naval bases to the United States of America? Have we given out our territory, sovereign territory? No. We are in a relationship of equals, and even that, because otherwise we'll get digressed to India, Pakistan,
No,
wherever the discussion was
Jalsa,
towards
how would you?
No, but I'll answer your question. No, but I'll answer your question. The problem was, for 30 years, Indian diplomats, American diplomats worked very hard, and we had gotten a very good Indo-US dialogue going, a strategic partnership going. Then came Donald Trump and wrecked it all like a raging bull in a china shop. He wrecked it all. And suddenly the tariffs became the defining thing instead of geopolitics, right? And he imposed 50% tariffs on India, being a leader of the BRICS bloc, 50% tariffs on Brazil, right? He went on a total anti-third world crusade. And with that, we have to now very clearly think that we have to rethink our relationship with the United States. There can be.
Is this your individualistic thinking?
I'll just finish. There can be two, principal geopolitical architectures.
Right.
One is that you consider China the principal hegemon. Then a partnership between United States, India, Japan, NATO, this thing, sounds viable. But if America turns out to be the principal hegemon, principal threat to the third world nation, well, then the alternative architecture is Russia, India, China, BRICS, versus the American hegemon, which is running amok, who's going on a 7 to 8 countries he has attacked since he came in his second term.
Iran is the 9th country. Iran is actually the 9th
country. 7 to 8 countries he had attacked earlier. Nigeria, Somalia, you name it.
Jalbakshi, a number of questions flow out from what you have said. Could the anger in India be because of the Donald Trump's treatment of India over the last 12 months, the way it treated India with disrespect? India was not expecting it to be treated this way on the trade issue. Could the anger in India, because you're also an ally, you're also developing a very strong relationship with Israel, right? So the reaction, could the reaction be because of Trump?
The reaction was solely because of Trump.
Okay.
Solely because of Trump. India is a civilizational state. It doesn't like to be pushed around. We don't like to play second fiddle. We are not going to be junior partners in any strategic relationship, right? India stands as a civilizational state, like Iran is a civilizational state. They have self-respect. They value their strategic autonomy. They value their, autarky as a power center in its own right. And we do think that the world is heading towards a multipolar power configuration, which is already upon us. The problem is the United States is still in a time warp. The multipolar power equation was from 1990 to about 2017. And thereafter, there has been a paradigm shift. The United States wants to reverse this paradigm shift. The United States wants to take the world back to the unipolar power equation. I'm afraid that's not happening. And the United States, by stupid war of choice against Iran, is now an empire in decline. It is in decline. And it has hastened its decline by this unnecessary, uncalled for war of choice, which has devastated the global economy, which has crashed the global economy, which is pushing the world towards recession. Europe, Asia, Africa, some South Asian countries, because of this blockage of the Gulf of Hormuz, no fertilizers are coming out. 350 million people could face famine next year. Moeed, this man has created a disaster. Disaster for the global economy.
But they're two different things. Either the reaction is because on the principle of global South, or the reaction is principally directed because of the Donald Trump. If Donald Trump had not treated India with this kind of disrespect, which he did 50% treaties and all that, would India then be still reacting in this fashion? After all, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi went to see in Israel for 3 days trip just before this, which actually became very controversial.
Moeed, don't forget, India and Iran have long-standing relationships, right? Iran gave us a bridge, a land bridge, or gave us a corridor to get to Afghanistan. Iran gave us the corridor to get to Central Asia. It's our window to Central Asia. It's our window to Afghanistan, where India had constructed the ring road, you see, and we could link it via Chabahar. Iran gave us the port of Chabahar. And frankly, when we were on opposite sides in Afghanistan, India and Iran had cooperated quite extensively. Civilizationally, the Iranian civilization, the Zoroastrian civilization, and the Indian Vedic civilization had hell of a lot in common. You know, the Zen, the Vesta, and the Vedas, they are written in the same meter, in the same this thing. And with Shia Islam, we have greater understanding, because there is a lot of commonality between Shia Islam and the Bhakti movement, even in Hinduism. So there are a lot of common factors that were there with Iran. And Iran, incidentally, is a member of the BRICS. I hope you realize that.
Yes.
And India is the president of the BRICS.
Yes.
India is the voice of the global south.
Yes.
India is going to be a standalone power. We don't need props.
Yeah, but Jan Bakshi,
Right?
despite this, despite the fact that India, as you say, and I agree that India is perceived as a leader of the global south, India has been president of the BRICS, Iran is a member of the BRICS, and you had civilizational links with India, and Iran supported you diplomatically on many occasions, even at times, displeasing Pakistan. Yet the Prime Minister Narendra Modi went and was embraced by Prime Minister Netanyahu just before the attack on Iran, which was seen as sort of an endorsement of the Israeli attack on Iran. So how do you really explain the contradiction?
Look, let me be blunt and straightforward. Before any conflict starts, we have, the armed forces, the intelligence agencies. I was in the military operations directorate on 2 tenures. The military, the intelligence agencies, they carry out an assessment of what is the outcome going to be. So that you have to align yourself straightforward. You have to align yourself with the ground reality.
You have to align yourself with the victor, not with the principal.
With the ground reality, there's a big difference. Because in India, in the armed forces, in intelligence work, you have to work on what is the ground reality, not what I wish for. You see, not what I wish for. You have to work on the ground realities. And therefore, there was a school of thought in India. And there is, in every democratic polity, there is a divide. So there are 2 schools of thought in India. One school of thought says, United States is the future. That's the way to go. The other school of thought feels no. It is Russia, India, China triangle, which is the future, which is the BRICS, which is the future, right? So when America started putting a lot of pressure in India, and we needed a trade deal with the United States, so there was a lot of pressure in India, because a lot of jobs in India are stuck with that American trade deal. Our leather sector, our textile sector, our jewelry sector, mass employment sectors, fisheries, agriculture, they are dependent upon the American market, export market, right? So when America started putting pressure on India, they were concerned that we didn't want our people to suffer. So therefore, there was a school of thought that Donald Trump is a temporary phenomena. He is there maximum for 3 years more. And like Japan, like Europe, a lot of people decide, let's suffer this man for, this and his shenanigans for the next 3 years, and then possibly America will get back to normal, right? And get back to geopolitics instead of trade and tariffs as being the defining this thing of American polity. So there was a school of thought that, possibly the reality in the Middle East is that America-Israel combination, the military combination is in pure bean count terms simply too strong for Iran. Iran is likely to lose, Iran will not prevail, and the entire geopolitical architecture of the Middle East will take a change. I was one of the few people in India, military analysts in India, who felt clearly that is not the way it was heading.
Really?
Iran was going to use asymmetric warfare and Iran was going to prevail. Look, a guerrilla army wins if it does not lose. A standing army loses if it does not win. That was what happened in Vietnam. And, with Iran, the military equation was skewed from the very outset. Look, let me explain. You must understand this. When United States attacked Saddam Hussein, Iraq is 1/4 the size of Iran. It is a flat desert. There are no mountains. Iran is one of the most mountainous countries, 4 times the size of Iraq, right? It has the Zagros Mountains, Elburz Mountains. You can defend 92 million population. It is a civilizational state. And my simple point was a mathematical equation. A simple mathematical equation that when the United States had to attack Iraq in Gulf War I, they got 750,000 boots on the ground and a 48-day air campaign, interdiction campaign to, pave their military entry into Iraq. And they prevailed. They were able to liberate, as they said, Kuwait, right? Gulf War II, Iraq was highly weakened, yet the Americans had to put 350,000 boots on the ground. It's another thing that the CIA simply purchased, bribed the Republican guards, told them to melt away, and after they take over, they'll get you good jobs.
Seriously?
And we all know what happened. Of course. I say you must read some of this subterranean text, right? You must know these. The American sources will tell you this, that the CIA had bribed the Republican guards, and then the Republican guards were taken for a ride, and they were told to get lost, and they became the ISIS. I hope you...
When Ian Bremmer discarded and dismantled the army, then the army became rebellious and turned itself into a guerrilla warfare.
Guerrilla warfare, they became the ISIS. The entire ISIS core was the Republican guards of Saddam Hussein, who had been taken for a ride. But to come back to Iran, no, 1 second. To come back to Iran before I lose the thread. So, if to capture Iraq, you needed 750,000 troops. To capture Iran, to have a regime change, I'm afraid you needed at least 1 million boots on the ground. 500,000 to 1 million boots on the ground, and they had to fight for 18 months, and the number of body bags would run into several thousand. Was America capable of that? An air power campaign alone could not ensure regime change, could not, ensure that Iran became a colony and all of Iran's oil was now going to be there. Donald Trump was too mesmerized by his Pyrrhic victory in Venezuela. The simple fact that some people of the world must understand is Iran is not Venezuela. I had seen it coming and I had been warning our people, and I'm very happy that a lot of people have come around to my view that Iran has emerged stronger. Professor Robert Pape has clearly enunciated. I think he's one of the best scholars on this particular subject of limited wars and air power. And he has said Iran has emerged much stronger from the war, much stronger than it was before this stupid 70-day war. It now controls the Gulf of Hormuz.
General Bakshi, the calculus, apparently, the Zionist supporters and advisors and Netanyahu and people around Trump made him believe this thing, that just like it happened in the 1990s in the Yugoslavian air campaign, which ran for 78 days, a massive bombing campaign will actually collapse the military, the IRGC, the decapitations of the top politicians in the military will lead to a surrender kind of situation. That hasn't really happened in Iran. Otherwise, they have gone for cutting the. They have actually done massive decapitations in Iran, but the regime hasn't really collapsed.
Look, in the annals of warfare, in military history, you can't do single event forecasting. In national security forecasting, Moeed, you have to go for pattern modeling, pattern prediction. Patterns tend to persist and repeat themselves cyclically. And if you wish to make a heuristic warning forecast, then you study the patterns of the past and apply them to the present situation, and you can extrapolate and come with a fairly reasonably accurate, like I said, not algorithmic, but heuristic warning forecast. You see this World War II campaign of bombing, all that it created, bombing of Germany, all that it created was rubble, and it delayed the American advance. It is the Russians who captured Berlin first, man. You go for that. Vietnam, 20 years of bombardment. There are more bomb craters in Vietnam than there are craters on the moon. But you could not break the spirit of the Vietnamese people. The Vietnamese people fought back hard, and at the end of it, it is Americans which had to flee from Vietnam, from Saigon, hanging on to the rails of helicopters. Look at Afghanistan, man. Look at Afghanistan. 20 years, and that rout from Afghanistan was far worse than Vietnam. It was a military disgrace the way the Americans exited in that tearing hurry from Afghanistan. Look at what happened in Iraq. 8 years, $4 trillion down the drain. And at the end of it, thousands of body bags, and you had to leave. To put regime change, sir, you have to put boots on the ground. And my simple calculus was that America does not have that many boots on the ground, number one. Number two, it does not have the stomach to take that level of casualties. Number three, you made a very pertinent point about the Yugoslav campaign. What was the state of the Russians? They were in a total collapse state, very weak. That is not so now. The Russians and the Chinese have been helping the Iranians. The Chinese have been bankrolling the Iranian economy. They have persisted. They have refused to obey American sanctions. They have continued to buy Iranian oil and gas, sir. And it is because of that they have kept the Iranian economy out. Yugoslavia had no supporters whatsoever. It was all by itself.
But General Bakshi, another concept that is being debated in the last 48 hours is Christmas bombing of December 1972, when Richard Nixon wanted to extract a final negotiation and deal, wanted to bring the North Vietnamese to the negotiation table. They were not coming. He bombed relentlessly for 2 to 3 weeks, Hanoi and all the areas, and in the end, he was able to obtain a negotiated deal from the North Vietnamese. Trump may be thinking the same.
Look, Einstein said, if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again,
right,
and expect different results, it is a sign of madness. Right? You can do more of the same. In the armed forces, in the Indian Army, we said never reinforce the failure. Reinforce the success. You had a stark failure. I mean, if you haven't understood that, don't compound the failure. Don't double down and persist in doing what has not worked. The Iranians are underground. The IRGC is underground. They have whole cities where they are producing drones and rockets and missiles, sir. आप कुछ नहीं कर सके हैं. As per the realistic military estimates in America itself, they've been able to destroy only 30% of the Iranian missile capability, even less of the drone capability.
According to CIA.
According to CIA. And they are continuing the manufacture. So you can keep bombing the mountains, man. How does it make a bloody difference? The best antidote to bombing is to go underground, and they are underground.
So General Bakshi, do you think this war is over now?
This war is over, bar the shouting. It's over, but in name. America and Israel, they made a gross miscalculation, a tragic miscalculation, an unforgivable miscalculation. You see, because you can't get it so wrong. Before a war, if you underestimate your enemy so badly, then you are asking for trouble, and they have gotten trouble, right? And what has worked is asymmetric warfare strategies of Iran have worked brilliantly. They have used the RMA, the revolution in military affairs, wrought by drones and missiles. You see, they have learned lessons from Iraq. They have learned lessons from Afghanistan and Libya. In Iraq, the Iraqi Air Force was no match for the United States Air Force and the NATO powers that were thrown into the bargain. So his only option was to use Scuds. The Chinese studied this very carefully because they also have a mismatch in air power and naval power they had at that time against the United States. So they caught on to the fact that the Scuds was the only retaliatory asset that Iraq had. Iran and China, they learned this lesson and they worked very hard on missiles and drones. The Chinese have a whole series of missiles with which they are able to destroy any aircraft carrier battle group that is steaming toward China. With their Dongfeng 21D and Dongfeng 26 and carrier killer missiles, they can destroy. The power projection capability of the United States has 11 aircraft carrier battle groups. But what Iran has shown, Iran learned from the Chinese. It was able to produce its own ballistic missiles, hypersonic, maneuverable re-entry warheads. It was able to produce cruise missiles, anti-ship missiles, number of them hypersonic, which just cannot be stopped by the THAADs, by the Patriot, by any known air defense systems in the world.
If this is
Right.
true, General Bakshi, then why has Iran not attacked any of the US aircraft carriers and missile destroyers so far?
Excuse me, what has happened to the Gerald Ford? The Gerald Ford was hit, sir, and it has limped back to the United States. It is out of action. What has happened to the Abraham Lincoln? It was hit, it was repaired, and it has been brought back now. And America had to bring in 2 more carrier battle groups there to
But
keep
it has not
free.
been reported. They say that the Gerald Ford suffered from laundry fire. You don't believe
That's my
that?
answer. That's my answer. Tell us another one. I'm a soldier with 37 years of service, 50% of it in combat areas. So tell us about laundry fires burning an aircraft carrier down.
So-
have you heard of it before?
So how do you look at this Operation Freedom, the Project Freedom? I mean, but Donald Trump's
It's been called off.
It's called off.
It's been called off. Aren't you aware?
But then
It's been
even
called off,
after-
Moeed.
no, it was called off on Tuesday, but on Thursday night, once again, the 3 American destroyers barged into the Strait of Hormuz, and we don't really know what really happened. The Iranians fired on them. The Donald Trump issued a tweet. He said that
Look,
only
look, Moeed, as a military man, let me give it to you straight. If any American aircraft carrier or even destroyers enter the restricted waters of the Gulf of Hormuz, well, they are not coming out. All
why are
right.
you so confident?
I'm so confident because of the missile mathematics. The Iranians have 350-kilometer range anti-ship missiles, their own. They're called Khyber and they're called Hormuz. And they have the Chinese C-302 anti-ship missiles, ballistic cruise missiles. Then they have ballistic missiles. The Fateh 2 and the Khurram Shah, and the Khurram Shah has a maneuverable warhead. They have access to the Chinese Vidyao GPS navigation system, which can give you which has been giving Iranian missiles 1 meter circular error of probability, CEP. That is enough to sink any aircraft carrier to the bottom of the Gulf of Oman or the Gulf of Hormuz, sir. If they enter, they're not coming out. That is why the American carrier battle groups have moved 3,000 kilometers away. You know, the power projection, the entire paradigm of power projection has been stood on its head by A2AD, anti-access area denial strategy, which the Iranians had borrowed from the Chinese. And it has worked so superbly well. If they put in their carrier or their destroyer, and Iran is just waiting for that. So because one aircraft carrier down means 5,000 American military lives, 5,000 body bags. One destroyer means 250 body bags, and that is the end of the political career of Donald Trump.
So in view of this,
that's why they are not doing it.
In view of this, we're only left with 4 days before the summit between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump. Do you expect?
I was told that the latest is that has been cancelled by Donald Trump. He's very upset that China is supplying weapons and China is trying to destabilize their.
Seriously? This is one hell of a development. Let me check. Just let me check because I
check. Let me also know. I just saw this on the YouTube.
No, this happened previously, but no. This happened last time. It says the world's second most powerful men are set to meet again. Here is what you have to know. It's 4 hours ago by New York Times. No, it has not been cancelled. Trump plans to bring a smaller.
Trump says one thing in the morning, another in the afternoon, and by the evening he has cancelled it all. But I have seen some reports on the YouTube. One again, the authenticity we are just waiting to check. But we are told that Donald Trump is very upset with China for ruining his blockade of Iran, and they are continuing with their ghost fleet to buy the oil. The Chinese have just refused to accept American sanctions. They passed the 2021 law. They have just passed it now. It was first mooted in 2021 that American laws cannot be applied to China.
The meeting was, it is the same situation that the May 14-15 summit is not cancelled. President Trump has not cancelled his meeting with President Xi. Rather, it was rescheduled. No, it is the old rescheduling. I think it is a disinformation. It hasn't really cancelled. Okay. So coming back to it, my question was this: that we are not only left 4 days.
So if Donald Trump, one thing, if Donald Trump has to meet Xi Jinping as scheduled, then he can't do the Christmas bombing.
Then he can't do the Christmas. This is what the question was. So we cannot expect any more muscular action in the Strait of Hormuz till this meeting takes place.
Hopefully not, but like I said, you see, you can adopt a predictive model by studying patterns of behavior, studying patterns of past pronouncements, and then make a heuristic warning forecast, which is fairly accurate. But if Trump is, there used to be something called calculated irrationality in nuclear deterrence. Nikita Khrushchev went to the UN Security Council, took off his shoe and banged it on the table, saying, "Don't push me. I can do anything. I can fire nukes." So that is called calculated irrationality. Unfortunately, what Donald Trump is trying is calculated insanity. If you start behaving, I am insane. Nobody can predict me. Of course, nobody can predict somebody who's insane, who should be in a white coat which buttons at the back. But the simple fact of the matter is that with Donald Trump, impulsive behavior, erratic behavior, which cannot be predicted, and that is why it is dangerous. That is why it is dangerous to the whole of humanity.
So you think the summit meeting with China is going to settle the Iran-US war?
I'm not too sure. You may have to come back to keep mowing the grass again, kind of a situation, because this then could continue. But I am quite certain, as far as the American military is concerned, they are reasonable guys. They are very intelligent. It's one of the best professional militaries in the world. There is no doubt on that particular score. They had such intellectual sectors, think tanks, etc. to back them. The problem is Donald Trump doesn't listen. He has no patience for briefings by his Pentagon, by his armed forces, and he has disregarded the advice of his armed forces. Dan Cain had told him, "Look, I can destroy the Iranian navy. There's nothing much of a navy, much of an air force, but you can't do regime change with air power." He had told him. He said, "I can't open the Gulf of Hormuz because the entire North Bank geography favors Iran. Entire North Bank, he's got missile batteries, cruise missile batteries, anti-ship batteries, drones. He can keep that damn thing closed forever. And I can't do anything about it." And he said, "I don't advise putting boots on the ground." They said the minimum that I need just to keep the strait open and to take the northern bank is about 200,000 troops. And for 18 months of fighting, 15,000 body bags. This was a clear thing told to them by the American military.
So moving forward, how do you think this conflict is going to end?
हमारे यहाँ, to use the vernacular, शेर की तरह दहाड़ते गए, चूहों की तरह वापस आए. As far as this conflict, Iran, the attack on Iran, this one is concerned, it has been a flop show. They persist with this, they will only add to the casualties and damage. Right? I think at a particular point in time, some collective wisdom of the armed forces, the military industrial complex will prevail and say, okay, back off for now. That is how I see it ending. They'll have to back off for now unless he wants to ensure. The American military power has suffered huge reputational loss. साहब, जब तक आपने नहीं किया था, तो at least the people were scared of the American armed forces. I'm afraid we've lost all fear. All the countries that are watching in the third world, now it's not 10 feet tall. I'm sorry, if you couldn't get a medium military power to its needs, how are you going to tackle Russia, China, India, North Korea, and these powers? I'm sorry.
No, I understand. The fear and the impact and
factor is gone.
The fear factor has actually gone. But
and you hasten the decline of the American empire. You hasten the end of the petrodollar. You've done it.
In your book, Limited Wars in South Asia, you had argued that conflicts in a nuclear backdrop must be carefully managed to ensure escalation dominance. Now, India and Pakistan are nuclear powers, just like it happened in Operation Sindoor versus Operation Banyan al-Masroor. Both are nuclear powers, and they really have to see every step in terms of escalation. Iran and Ukraine are two contradictory examples in the sense that Ukraine has been pitched against a nuclear power, Russia, and Iran has been facing Israel, which is a nuclear power, and United States, which is a superpower. So how do you think Iran managed the escalation dominance there?
The simple fact of the matter is that Ukraine had handed over its nuclear weapon, and Ukraine has suffered quite badly. But the fact of the matter is Ukraine is backed by the United States. Nuclear weapons were used only in 1945 against Japan, when America was the sole nuclear power in the world. It was a situation of total asymmetry.
But many analysts have expressed the fear. I mean, Robert Pape, John Mearsheimer, they all have been expressing the fear that at some point Netanyahu and Israel could be desperate to use a nuclear weapon.
Let me tell you, as a military analyst, I don't see that happening at all. Israel dare not use a nuclear weapon because it is not the only nuclear armed state in the world, right? China has nuclear weapon, Russia has nuclear weapon, and North Korea had offered, Kim Jong-un had offered to give its intercontinental ballistic missile and nukes to Iran in case Israel uses a nuclear weapon. No country in the world would be crazy enough, including Israel, to dare to use a nuclear weapon. And cross that nuclear Rubicon. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. Neither Israel nor Pakistan will be able to use a nuclear weapon. You see, and there is a new doctrine that is emerging that you said India and Pakistan are nuclear weapons. How long did we fight in Kargil? 3 months. 2 divisions worth we had used, plus a lot of artillery. And how many nuclear weapons were fired? Which? Zero. But you can say that we hadn't crossed the LC.
No, but General Bakshi, there was another problem. In 1999, India and Pakistan had not developed the delivery systems. Now both countries have the deliveries.
No. The initial delivery systems were based on jet fighters. The F-16s had been modified for nuclear delivery well before the war. We had our Jaguars, we had our MiG-27s, we had a whole lot of delivery vectors through which we could have delivered nuclear weapons, and so did you. And then, of course, India had already started work on the Prithvi.
On more than one occasion, you referred to that Americans in the West use Pakistan against India. I want to basically expand and understand this point of view for my viewers, because within Pakistan, the feeling is this, that after all, you had a strategic relationship with Soviet Union, which India successfully used in 1971 conflict when Soviet Union's pressure was there. And Soviet weapons and Russian weapons are still the mainstay of the Indian army. You're objecting to, so when you talk of the ground realities, for instance, you mentioned that, the ground realities were assessed in case of the Iran-Israel US conflict. From the Pakistani point of view, they're a smaller nation, the population is less, the resources are less, India is big, the Kashmir dispute is there, 1971 happened. So they have to avail all opportunities, whether they're coming from China or from the United States. So when you refer that they are only being used against India, why do you say that? Pakistan has every reason to be afraid of India or fearful of India or insecure because of India. But you are expressing your own insecurity because of Pakistan.
No. You see, the simple fact of the matter is, that Pakistan, despite being the weaker state, has been the more aggressive non-status quo power. Who is trying to change the status quo in Kashmir? Pakistan. Who has been now talking of, that the Ran of Kutch, that particular area? Who's talking of changing the status quo? It is Pakistan. The non-status quo power. India is the status quo power. We don't want any change in borders. Jo ho gaya so ho gaya, ab rehne do. Let's get on from there. Let's cooperate. Let's move on. But the fact is, the regional destabilizer has been Pakistan, and they have been using extra regional powers to, get the wherewithal to be offensive against India. That is the problem. Israel is a small state, but who is the destabilizer in the Middle East? Israel. Who has been attacking Egypt, Iraq, now Iran, now Jordan, Lebanon. So small state doesn't mean that it is a defensive state. Small states tend to be extremely aggressive, over-aggressive as some kind of a compensation mechanism, which has created all the problem.
But
otherwise, India was very clear that it was focused on economic development.
Your doctorate is in strategic studies. You have written extensively on it. When you say that Pakistan is trying to change the status quo, it can also be seen that Pakistan is trying to use Kashmir and other things as a leverage against a greater power, because India is a bigger power. Pakistan is being insecure. Pakistan is using Kashmir to leverage and keep India away, because the dispute is not being settled. If Kashmir's dispute settled, and Pakistan is also...
You think if Kashmir is settled, everything will be over between India and Pakistan? I don't think so.
No.
Unfortunately, I know we would like to live in peace, but you see, हमारा यहाँ पे इंडिया में perception ये है, ना जिएंगे, ना चैन से जिएंगे, ना जीने देंगे. Are you aware that 81,000 Indians have been killed in India because of Pakistan asymmetric terrorist offensive. You started it in Punjab, 1980s. 26,000 Indian citizens, soldiers, etc., policemen were killed. Then it started in J&K. 45,000 were killed. Right. Then with the Indian Mujahideen, you started a series of bomb blasts in the major cities and towns of India: Bombay, Calcutta, Bangalore, Ahmedabad, you name it. 15,000 Indians were killed. Add that all together, India has suffered 81,000 citizens killed
Bakshi,
because
you
of
blame
Pakistani
Pakistan
terrorism.
for Indian Mujahideen. I have never seen that because I was part of some press conference.
Look, Indian Mujahideen was raised specifically for deniability. The Islamic Student Union was, those people, Bhatkal, etc., were taken to Pakistan. And you are a geostrategic expert. We
I
all know
was
the games nations play.
when 2006 train attacks happened. I happened to be in Havana, in Cuba. There was a non-aligned summit in which the Prime Minister, General Musharraf, met Manmohan Singh. And there was, in fact, a press conference by the Indian side, and the issue of the train attacks was discussed. And I was there. And the Indian spokesperson told the Indian media that we are not blaming Pakistan for the train attacks in Mumbai in 2006 by the Indian Mujahideen. He said we have no evidence. I was actually present in the press conference. This was
look. We lost over 300 people in that train attack. Right?
200 plus.
And
280. You're right. Yeah, you're right. 280. Yeah.
280 we had lost in that train attack. The logistical circuit was, this Dawood Ibrahim circuit, who's the prime logistician of the ISI in terms of providing. He's the network that the ISI uses to smuggle in weapons, explosives, help the infiltration of terrorists. So it was the Dawood network which had done it. And the Dawood network is closely aligned with the ISI. We are very sure and aware of our facts. And then when 26/11 happened, would you, it was the Pakistani television which showed that fellow, what was his name? I'm forgetting the name
Ajmal Kasab.
Ajmal Amir Kasab. Ajmal Amir Kasab was from Pakistan. They were trained in Pakistan. David Don Headley has confessed to the FBI.
Jalsab agreed. But what about Balochistan? The Pakistani military believes this thing that Indian intelligence is helping the BLA in sponsoring them. I mean, look at the train attack in Jafar Express in March of 2025, in which I think 700 people were injured or abducted. So,
show us the evidence.
Well, in Indian
show
officer,
us the evidence.
In 2000,
show us the evidence that we are doing it.
Indian naval
you
officer.
Have a local insurgency. You've been exploiting the Baluch. The Baluch have risen up in revolt. Not now. I mean, I remember back, Tika Khan was the corps commander in Baluchistan, and he was called the butcher of Baluchistan. He was firstly the butcher of Bangladesh. Then from there, he had carried out Operation Searchlight. He was sent to Baluchistan. I remember way back in 1973, he had carried out a massacre of the Baluch. You now, if you want to use strong arm tactics against all your minorities, whether it's Gilgit, Baltistan, the Shias.
Of course, Pakistan has problems in Baluchistan, but so India also has problem in Kashmir. So foreign powers get involved. You say India has
Our
problems
have by and large been resolved after we merged the state into India finally with 370 removal. You will find that is a far more peaceful place. I invite you to come to Srinagar and you will see the tricolor flying from almost every school government building.
Despite the fact that I have a British passport, I cannot travel to India because they want you to take a visa on a Pakistani passport. So the Indian government they have place. But
that's sad because
no, I would like to, but because of the relationship between the two countries, Jalsa, we gone in too much into India, Pakistan. There were two three questions I wanted to address. One was what is the learning outcome between the tank and the drone? I mean, what is the future of tank?
Let me just tell you straightforward that the drone has created a revolution in military affairs. There are three types of drones: the hail, high altitude long endurance, the male mid altitude long endurance, and the tactical drone. What has created the revolution is the tactical drone, handheld. You know, and with a drone costing $2,000, you can destroy a tank costing a million or 2 million, depending upon which type of tank. So the asymmetry is amazing. You know, the first people to use the drones were the Azerbaijanis against the Armenian tanks, you know, and they scored a big success with the Bayraktar drone, right? Next, it was used in Ukraine in a very, very major way. And in Ukraine, they are using drones in the millions. And you know that the Russian tanks can't move, they attack in infantry squads of 6 to 8, which are on the scrambler, cross country motorcycles, or the all terrain vehicles. They dump them, and this thing, that is the kind of revolution in military affairs which has been caused by the drone.
So what is the
But to
future of
say
tanks?
that the tank is a dinosaur, is a threatened species, it is threatened, all right, but the era is not over, because people are working, scientists are working, India is working, America is working on counter drone technologies, especially lasers, especially electronic warfare jammers. So it is drone, counter drone, so tank, anti tank. That is a long, long, long thing that we've been watching. The tank first made its appearance in 1914. Many times it was declared extinct, but it is not. And if you want to put boots on the ground, if you want to achieve decisive results, then you have to have tanks, you have to have the infantrymen like me. We are not out of business. We are not going out of business as yet.
Okay, so one of
And the
one
other
last,
thing is the
yeah.
asymmetric warfare strategies have worked wonderfully, especially against carrier-based power projection in the naval sphere. There has been a paradigm shift. I'm not very sure if America will risk its aircraft carrier battle groups if China attacks Taiwan tomorrow.
So what about the India's battle group? India also has an aircraft carrier.
Yes, we have 2 aircraft carrier battle groups, but we have to now think, do we want a third, or do we want to go in for more submarines? Or do we want to work out some prophylactic measures to deal with anti-ship missiles and drones? Maybe we'll use a
Johnson,
combination.
what is the strategic dimension of India's relationship with Israel?
Israel, let's be frank and straightforward, in every war that we'd had, either with Pakistan or with China, the Israelis have been supporting us. I mean, let there be no doubt on that fact. They have been providing us weapon systems and technologies, and for which we are grateful. The armed forces are grateful. But we think that, I think, by aligning with Donald Trump and trying to destroy a third world country, I think Iran went a bit too far. It miscalculated grossly.
Iran
This
went
is
too
our
far, or
advice.
Israel went too far?
Sorry. Israel went
Israel
too
went.
far, and that is what we will tell. We have been telling our Israeli friends and interlocutors. You made a gross miscalculation. You made a very big mistake. You shouldn't have done it. Even now, call it off, because they have paid a heavy price.
But Johnson, you're saying that in aligning with the Donald Trump, Israel is the one which we believe has pushed Donald Trump into this war. The America had no strategic goals in Iran. So you're saying that Israel aligned with the United States. Israel is the one that pushed it. Pushed the war.
It is, you see, the head of the Mossad was quite convinced that he had a colored revolution all laid out in Iran, and it just had to be given a slight nudge, and Iran would collapse like a house of cards. I'm afraid this assessment of the Mossad, which is a very professional intelligence agency, no doubt, one of the best in the world, no doubt on that score, but they have miscalculated grossly. And the head of the Mossad convinced Netanyahu. Netanyahu convinced Donald Trump. It was not America's war. Ken, the national counterterrorism czar who resigned, his full name I'm forgetting, Ken is his first name, who resigned in protest. He said there was no immediate threat to the United States from Iran. There was no imminent threat from United States to Iran, from Iran to the United States. We have fought somebody else's war. We have fought Israel's war. And quite obviously, even in the American armed forces, the feeling is we don't mind dying for our country, but we certainly mind dying for some other country. That is the feeling in the American armed forces.
General Bakshi, how are you looking at the growing rift between Saudi Arabia and UAE on one side and a relationship between UAE and Israel on the other side?
I am afraid that after the Iran war, the failure of the Iran war to destroy Iran, there will be a lot of changes that we will see in the coming months and years in the Middle Eastern landscape. It is difficult to predict what form they will take, but there's going to be a lot of churn, a lot of flux in the Middle Eastern geographical space.
Because I'm concerned that Israel's strategic relationship with UAE and both strategic relationship UAE and Israel with India would extremely unnerve and make the Pakistani military more insecure about itself. So they will then think of actually countering this through some other mechanism. So this is going to raise this stress and tension in South Asia, because UAE has been close to Pakistan. Now UAE is drifting away. Pakistan is drifting towards Saudi Arabia. UAE has a good relationship with India. India has a good relationship with China as well. But India, UAE, and Israel together and Pakistan left on the side is going to create a lot of insecurity. You can understand from your own strategic paradigm.
Pakistan has sent 13,000 troops to Saudi Arabia. It has sent 20 jet fighters, F-16, JF-17s to Saudi Arabia. What they are going to do, what they are going to achieve, I'm slightly at a loss to understand. You are taking out troops. You have huge problems back at home with the Baluchis, with the Pashtuns. Your problem with the Pashtuns is far more serious.
But this is on the insistence I understand that it is too under pressure from Saudis to give them reassurance because Saudis are a major creditor of Pakistan. Well, I'm not representing the Pakistani government. I'm just trying to read their mind.
The fact of the matter is, I'm sorry to say, I'm not an admirer of your military. We have no problems with the Pakistani people. People to people, I find we have no problem. We are the same ethnicity.
I don't represent the military.
Language.
I'm sitting in Washington. I don't represent the military.
Yeah, I know. That's why we are talking. That's why we are talking. Had you been a pro-military...
But I believe that the Indian and Pakistani military officers have good relationship with each other.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, just... we are civil to one another, but we understand fully that all our problems are because of the Pakistani military and its combative mindset of the NATO chain se jiyenge na jeene denge, and the Pakistani military, by making Pakistan an over-militarized state, is going to cause an economic collapse of Pakistan, just like the Austrian military, which ran the state, collapsed Austria, like the Nazi Germany collapsed economically, like Imperial Japan, over-militarized state, collapsed economically. Pakistan is an over-militarized state. The military is, grabbing the top resources needed. And that is why the Pakistani people are suffering as a result of the over-ambitious Pakistani military. I'm sorry, your generals either settle in London, their children are all in London, the best of flats, or they are in Washington, right? And it is the Pakistani people who are suffering. Agar bahut economically jo stress jo hai, it is because you are an over-militarized state. And with the Pakistani military, extracting the resources of the Pakistani nation state in a totally imbalanced manner. Half the problems are because of the Pakistan military and its exploitation of Islam as a tactical factor, radical Islam as a tactical factor. Madrasas are,
so
there
let me
are
ask you the last question. Do you think, because I'm a great believer that India and Pakistan can cooperate and have improved relationship, Do you think in the near term that there is a possibility of India and Pakistan coming close to each other, resolving their differences? Is there a possibility of better relationship between India and Pakistan?
Only if a democratic dispensation, truly democratic dispensation, comes up in Pakistan and not a puppet master, the puppet strings being with the Pakistani army. The Pakistani army has been running puppets for all these regimes, and regimes are, for the past so many 75 plus years, almost 30 years, the Pakistan army has ruled directly, and the rest it has ruled by proxy, through puppets, through proxies, And unless that changes, I don't see any peace and quiet between India and Pakistan. Basically, theoretically, there can be in the Indian National Army of Subhash Chandra Bose, who's my personal hero. Indian and Pakistani military officers, soldiers, they fought together against the British. So theoretically, it is possible, but practically, can only happen if there is a truly democratic dispensation that represents the people of Pakistan. The people of Pakistan are so fed up, they have attacked the house of the corps commander in Lahore. They took away his white peacock. इतनी भूख लगी थी वो खा गए. उसके फ्रिज में से क्राफ्ट चीज निकाली है, और जो मुर्गे शुर्गे थे वो सब निकाल के exotic fruit खा गए. Because the only politician who could hold a candle to the Pakistan army we found was Imran Khan. So unless democracy takes root in Pakistan, the trouble between India and Pakistan will not cease. The root cause of the problem is your military.
But even when Imran Khan tried, he tried, in 2019 and 18, he tried. He was not
Imran
successful.
Khan initially was a poster boy of the Pakistan military. He broke free later. You remember? Initially, he had been brought up. He was a poster boy.
By New Delhi saw him as a poster boy, but he sincerely wrote a letter.
No, and then we saw that he broke free, and everybody knows.
So he was not trusted. He was not trusted.
Part of the he was not trusted because initially we thought he was a poster boy of the Pakistan army.
He wrote a very persuasive letter. Immediately after becoming the Prime Minister in 2018, he wrote a personal letter to Prime Minister Narendra Modi asking for a foreign minister meeting at the General Assembly. And Prime Minister Modi had agreed to it. And Sushma Swaraj and Shah Mahmood Qureshi were supposed to meet in the General Assembly sidelines. Then something happened in Kashmir. A soldier was killed or something. And the Ministry of External Affairs said that Imran Khan is the terrorist. So I think that was a bad start between the two governments. He was very sincere. So he needed New Delhi's support, but he never got the support. So no Pakistani democracy.
Initially, let's be straightforward. Initially, the Indian government saw him as another puppet politician of the Pakistan military, foisted by the military. And then, of course, he chafed at his military strings and he broke them, outgrew them. And then, of course, we all know what happened. And then we saw a democratic upsurge in Pakistan, and which truly identified the Pakistan military as the bane of Pakistan's problem. That is why the public came out on the streets. That the first time we have seen a street revolution like that in Pakistan against the Pakistan army. So peace between India and Pakistan will come only if genuine democracy takes root in Pakistan. As long as the military calls the shot, either directly or behind the screen, we don't see any chance of peace with Pakistan. In fact, unfortunately, we see things going south.
So on this unhappy note, or on this,
I'm being realist.
On this unhappy note, we can conclude this discussion, which was mainly in the context of Iran, but too much on India. Pakistan also ended up discussing.
Yeah, but thank you. It was an interesting discussion. And
I look forward to staying in touch with you. I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Well-read interlocutor. Yes, we'll stay in touch. We welcome, one-to-one discussions because they help a lot. They help a lot. in
So,
the
Johnson, thank you so much.
people-to-people relation. Thank
Thank you so
you.
much.